Princess Adventure Stories. Let's see which Disney princess we're meeting tonight. Oh. The Princess and the Frog, cooking up a plan. Ever since she was a little girl, Tiana loved to cook. Her father taught her everything she knew. They spent many happy hours side by side at the stove, mixing up pots of gumbo and dreaming of the restaurant they would open someday. They wanted it to be a welcoming place where all different kinds of people could come together to share food and friendship. By the time Tiana had grown up, her father had passed away, but she still dreamed of opening the restaurant. She had her eye on an old sugar mill. It would be the perfect place. Tiana knew it would take a lot of hard work. She got a job waiting table at Cal's Diner and saved every penny of her tip money. Even so, she sometimes thought she might never earn enough money to buy the mill. One day, Tiana decided to look for a second job. She figured if she worked twice as hard, she could earn the money she needed twice as fast. Her first stop on the job hunt was Mrs. Johnson's dress shop. "Hello," Tiana called from the doorway. "Down here, dear," replied Mrs. Johnson. The woman was sewing a hem on a gown. "Help me up, won't you?" After Mrs. John was seated, Tiana offered to finish sewing the hem. She quickly grabbed a needle and thread and began stitching. "You have your mother's gift," Mrs. Johnson said. "I'm glad you think so," replied Tiana, "because I was hoping to come work for you." "Unfortunately, I'm not all that busy right now," Mrs. Johnson said, "but business usually picks up around Mardi Gras. Why don't you check back then?" Tiana was disappointed, but she wasn't going to give up. Tiana went to the hardware store next. Miss Lomero, the owner, greeted her cheerfully. "What can I get for you today?" he asked. "A ladder? A broom?" "Well, I'm pretty handy," Tiana said, eyeing the sign above the counter that had come loose. She quickly grabbed a hammer and a step stool and nailed the sign back into place. "How about a part-time job?" she asked with a smile. "I'm sorry, Tiana. I just hired my nephew," he replied. "But don't worry, something is bound to turn up." Back outside, Tiana noticed a steady stream of customers walking into Cora's beauty parlor. "Maybe I'll have some luck there," she thought. "Why don't you show me what you can do with Mrs. Richmond's hair?" Cora offered when Tiana asked for a job. Tiana immediately set to work with curlers and hairpins. When she was done, it looked more like a wedding cake than a hairdo. "Oh dear. I guess I was thinking about that new dessert recipe I came up with this morning," Tiana explained. "Thank you anyway, Cora." Tiana's spirits were drooping as she made her way over to Duke's Cafe and plopped herself onto a stool. She needed to take a break. "What's the matter?" asked Buford, the head cook. "You look down in the dumps." "Buford, I need a job," Tiana said. Then she had a thought. "Could you use a new waitress? I promise I'll work hard if you give me a chance." "I believe you," said Buford, "but we don't need anybody right now. Chin up. You'll find something." He opened the glass door on the dessert stand in front of him. Have one of my world-famous donuts. I guarantee it will put a smile on your face." Tiana bit into the donut. It was dry and tasteless, but she didn't want to hurt Buford's feelings. "Thank you," she said, forcing a grin. That certainly was unlike any donut I've ever had before. Back at home, Tiana told her mother, Eudora, about her disappointing day. At this rate, I don't know if I'll ever be able to save up the money I need, Tiana sighed. You're already working hard enough with just one job, Eudora insisted. Why, you don't even have time to do the things you love anymore. Like cook. I sure do miss those beignets of yours. I swear, they're like magic on a plate. Suddenly, Tiana perked up. Well, I don't know about magic, but they're worth a try, she said. What do you mean? Eudora asked. You'll see, Mama, replied Tiana. The next morning, Tiana went to work mixing up a batch of dough. When it was done, she set it in the bowl to rise. Next, she cut the dough into squares that dropped into a deep fryer. Soon they turned crispy and golden. One by one, Tiana carefully removed the beignets from the fryer and began dusting them with powdered sugar. She smiled as she set aside one for her mother. She piled the rest onto a large plate. I've never had beignets before. I'm sure they're yummy. Tiana walked straight over to Duke's and made a big show of putting the towering platter of beignets on the counter. Something sure does smell good, remarked a customer as the scent of beignets wafted through the cafe. What's all this? Buford asked, interested. My homemade beignets, replied Tiana. They're for being so nice to me yesterday. Go on, try one. Buford picked up a beignet and bit into it. So, what do you think? Asked Tiana. Buford thought the beignet was delicious, but he didn't want to admit it in a room full of his customers. After all, he was the head cook at Duke's. Still, those beignets were very tasty. Let me try another one, he said, stuffing 3 into his mouth at once. Yes, Tiana asked. Hang on, Buford replied. I don't want to be too hasty. He helped himself to another beignet, and another, until half of them were gone. Not bad, I guess, he said, finally licking the powdered sugar off his fingers. By now, everyone was eyeing the pastries. Mind if I try one? One of the customers asked. Me too, said another. In no time at all, the beignets were gone, and the customers were upset. It's okay, Buford, Tiana said as she headed out the door. I'll whip up another batch and come back tomorrow. The next morning, a crowd was waiting at Buford's. Moments later, Tiana arrived with a huge tray of the treats. The hungry customers followed her eagerly into the cafe. Say, Buford said, could you teach me to make these? Sorry, Buford, Tiana replied as she handed out the last pastry. It's a secret family recipe. Well, I better be going now. I've got more job hunting to do. The next morning, even more people flocked to Duke's. Buford was relieved when Tiana came through the door. Tiana, he cried, did you bring any beignets? I sure didn't, she replied. But that's what these folks are here for, wailed Buford. It seems to me, Tiana began, that what you need is a beignet cook and a waitress to help with all these extra customers. Lucky for you, I'm both rolled into one. But I can't even afford to offer you even one job, let alone 2, exclaimed Buford. You mean you couldn't afford, Tiana corrected him. My beignets have at least tripled your business. So, what do you say? Buford handed her an apron. "Miss Tiana," he said, "you drive a hard bargain, but you've got yourself a deal." In no time, Tiana whipped up enough beignets for the whole cafe to enjoy. Later that day, Tiana told her mother about her new job. "When you called my beignets magic on a plate," she explained, "I decided to let them cast their spell." "There was no magic to it," Eudora said. What got you that job was smarts and determination. I'm proud of you, sweetheart." "Thanks, Mama," Tiana answered happily. She was one step closer to making her dreams come true. She took a plate from behind her back. "I made some beignets just for you. Shall we have some to celebrate?" "I thought you'd never ask," Eudora declared. The end. What's your dream job? Let me know in the comments below. See you later. Bye.